有一尊伟大庄严的佛陀，他有着12大愿，愿愿皆为圆满，一切众生愿。他能为人们解决各种贫、病、苦、痛，并且圆满众生一切生活所需。他身上绽放着湛蓝，如天空一样美丽的光芒。光芒象征着沉静、光明、通达、智慧，没有烦恼。原来这是来自东方净琉璃世界药师佛陀的光芒。菩提禅修此次推出的药师佛像为古法琉璃烧制，颜色有天蓝色和紫蓝色两种。药师佛通体明澈，庄严华贵。此佛像经金菩提禅师特别加持，凡诚心供奉者，可得智慧增长，驱邪避灾，天福增寿，安康吉祥等不可思议的大能量护佑与加持。
Dispel calamity and evil. The statues are available in sizes of 8 centimeters and 10 centimeters. You can place the statue on altar or your writing desk.
办公桌等适当位置上。欢迎广大朋友迎请供奉。
For purchase and inquiries,
详情请
please
洽询全球
contact your
各地
local
菩提禅
Bodhi
堂。
Meditation centers. Confucius said, if you don't know your fate, then you're not a real gentleman. If you don't know manners and virtues, you cannot survive in the world. What is fate? Do we have a fixed fate in our life? Are we wealthy or poor? Is that a fixed route? In the ancient Oriental wisdom, are there any truths about our fate and fortunes? Welcome to watch Grandmaster JinBodhi's About Fate series, so that we can open the door and peek into the truth about our fate.
各位亲爱的网友朋友，大家好。
My dear friends, hello everyone.
今天又到了我们
So it's time again for our live feed, and it's about choices. So this is the topic. So choices actually happens every day in our lives, in every aspect.
那么现在我们讲的是这个关于这
So
个
now
就业
we're talking about whether we should choose employment or entrepreneurship. And
我也没有能力告诉你
actually,
是属于
I
创业的
cannot
还是就业的。
tell you whether
我们
you're the type
通
of
过对
person
比
better
分析
for employment
研
or
究之后呢，我
entrepreneurship.
想让
But
我
through
自己
you know,
和所有的
analysis
网
and
友朋友都
comparison,
能够清晰的
I hope
看透这一点。
myself and all of you
哎
can
那
see
首先是
clearer
我是
the
做了这
picture.
么一个对
So
比
first of all,
这个
making some
如果
comparisons.
是
If
就业的话，
we're
就业就所
choosing
谓就是找工作嘛，
employment, well, employment means
就
going
业
to
的话
find a job.
我觉得会
I think
相对会单纯一些。
it would be, you know,
比如说
simpler.
学一门手艺，
Say, for example, you
比如说是
just
厨师，
learn a skill
或是木
like
匠，
cooking, or
或者是汽
so
车修
be
理
a
工，
chef or be a carpenter or
当然还有更高的，
you
我
know
是一个
repair car repair
会计师，
or maybe
律师，
accountant
还
or
有就是那
lawyer
种写程序
or
的
you know those
网络编程员，
program
对，
a computer programmer
甚至是
or
销售的，
销售
maybe
的，或者是
salesperson
演员，
or maybe
什
yeah
么美发师，
acting or maybe
对，它都是就是有
yeah,
一门
or
技能
barbers or
这个技能
hairdressers.
包
So
括
they
传统的手
have a
艺
kind of
包括就是
skill.
知识含量较
Maybe
高的
it
这
is a
种
traditional
什么师
kind
之
of
类的
skill,
像
or
会计师
maybe
律师
it
是吧
is
等等
a
的这
special
样
kind
的
of knowledge for like
我
accountant
觉
or
得
a
相对会
programmer.
单纯
I think, but
那么
still it is
就业的时候
more
你只要有
simple.
一个方面的这些能力
When
这些
you
专
apply
长
for an employment,
就
as
可以
long
去
as you
应聘
have
去找工作
one kind of skill or one
如果
kind of
你的这
knowledge,
个
then
学
you
到
will
的
be
东西
able
不是
to
特别
find a
冷
job
门的
in
话
that field.
就是早晚都能
If
找到工作
your knowledge is not,
这是
very
这是一个
really
必然
heard,
性
then sooner or later you'll find a
但是
job.
如果
So,
如果说是创业的话
but
就
if you want
根本就
to
没那么
start
简
a
单
business, to choose
就比如
entrepreneurship,
说
that's not as easy as that.
我们一
Say, for
般找工作
example,
来说
if
我就是我是厨师
you know,
我就到一
if
个
we're
这
applying for a
个
job,
饭店
if
餐
I'm
馆去工作 对不对
I'm good at cooking,
但是如
then
果说
I want to find a
我要
job
做
in a
老板的话
restaurant.
呢
But if I want to be
那你就具有了不光是一个做饭
an
的能
owner
力
of
对
a
不对
restaurant, not only
还
I
具有什
need
么
to
呢
be
对不
able
对
to
哎呀，
cook,
太
but
多了。
what kind
还
of
要管理，
ability
还
you
要
need to
这个
know?
还有
And
人
Joy
呐
said, well,
对
you need to
还
be
要
able
进
to
货，
manage
还
the
有
the
的那
team,
些
and you
材
need to
料
know,
成本
uh,
控制
to control the
还得算账
supplies,
呢。
and you
对
need to
哎，
know
会计方面多多
finance.
少少也得
Yeah,
懂一点。
and
是
so you
嗯，
need
还
to
得
be
法
good
律
at
问题、
numbers,
卫
and
生
you
问
also
题，
need to
对
know about,
还没
legal
有
issues,
还得选
and
人，
还有
and also the
还有顾客
hygienes,
服
and
务，
also how to choose the
还
best
有
location
最要害的
and
你没说
customer
到
service.
嗯
But what is the
就
most
是
important
真
you
正
haven't
的就
mentioned?
是
So
能够经营
Grandmaster
好
said
餐馆的经
how
营能力
to
是
manage
对
the
就
the
这些
restaurant well.
刚
So
才
this
觉得你
is
讲到的
the
这么多能
management
力
skill.
啊
So
你
Joyce
都要
mentioned
具有
many different kind of
都
skills.
要
You
具
need
有的情况
all
下
of those, and
还要
after
有
all of
非常
those skills,
强
you
大的
still need to have
餐
a
馆的经
very
营能力
powerful
如果前面的能力都有 可是就
way
是
and skill of
这个餐馆生
managing
意
the
不好
restaurant, even if you have
没用
the other
就是
skills,
你
but
经营的那
the
么好你会
restaurant
这么
doesn't
多
have
的
good
本
business.
事
You know
但是
so
就
many
缺少这个
knowledge
经营
and
的能
skills,
力
but
一
you
样
just
赔
don't know
钱
how to manage a restaurant. Then
对
you
所
still
以你
lose
看
money.
做这个老
See,
板是
being
其实是不
a
容易的
boss or owner of
就
the
是你会的
restaurant
不
is
是
not
单项技
easy.
能
You're not just
是
knowing
多项
one
的能
skills
力
or three
和知
skills.
识
You need to know
就是你
all
不一定
kinds
成
of
为一个
skills.
专家但是你
You
一定
don't
会
have
成为
to
了一
be
个
the
为此
expert
用
in
生
every
命为代
aspect,
价
but
的一个奉献
you
他
would
有
also
可能
need
会
to
摸到
dedicate
一
your
点
whole
点
life
经
to,
营的这种心得和体
finally
会
get the
所以
essence
说的
of
好像严重了
the
要用
management.
生命
Well,
去经营用
oh,
生命去体验
well, when I'm saying
真的
like you're
是很
dedicating your
要
whole life, it's a kind of, maybe it's
因
too
为
serious, but
我们作
that
为一个普
really
通百
will
姓
take
本来就没有
that
钱
much
是
from
吧
you
那
to
你开
make
个
it
餐
a
馆你的可
success.
能你们家的资
Well,
本存的那
when
个
you
存款都
open
花
a
进去了
restaurant, maybe you
甚
would
至还
put
要借
all
钱
your savings there, and
可
you
不是
may
你
even
如
need
果
to
经营
borrow
不好
money if you
你
do
的
not manage it
经营
well.
之后这个赔本这
And
个关
if
闭了
you,
那
you know,
你欠的
after
债怎么还
yeah,
家人怎
if
么
you
生活
borrow money and then you lost
你们
money,
家的
what
生
can
活
you
怎么面
do?
对
And
下
how
个月的
can your
房租开
family
支
pay the
对不
next
对
month's
所以很
rent
要
or
命
yeah, and how to
所以我
survive?
们
And
就是其实
so
通过各
those are
项
all
的事业去对
very
比单项技能找
hard.
工作
And so
和
when we
综合
compare,
能
if
力
you have
去
one
创业
single skill to find a
工作
job, or you
真
have
的
like
很
a
简
whole
单
set of skills,
很单纯只是说
it's
我
different.
们作为
And so
去
having
就
a
业打
single
工
skill
我
to
们的
find
要
a
有一
job
个
is really
那
much
个
simpler.
平常心清
And
净心
So
别
go
总是眼
to
红
find an
眼红
employment.
生
You
气
need to
说你看人家
have
开了什么
you know,
名牌
simpler
车
mind.
住
Don't
了个大
always be
洋房
jealous. See other
是吧
people,
又那么
oh,
光
they have
彩
luxurious
很多
cars
人
or
崇拜还就
or
别再
you
羡
know,
慕
big
那些事了
houses. Don't always be
对吧
jealous
所以熬成一个大富
for
之
those
人
wealthy people.
在电影上很
Well,
多富人都是无耻的但在生活
yeah.
中如果没有
Well,
饭吃也不
being
是什么光彩的事儿
eventually getting to
相比之
that
下老板能给你
state
发
or
份工资
degree
我
of
觉得才是
wealthiness, actually, it's
很大
not
的功
easy.
德的
And actually,
对
you are employer giving you salary, actually they do a lot. And Joy said, actually, on the street, we sometimes will see many stores along the street sell different things. And some young people or some people who lost their job, they would think, oh, I can open a store. And if they can do that business or open a store, would it be easier than opening a restaurant? Well, Grandmaster says, if you want to open a store, you then need to have the license, and then you need to rent a space. Opening a store is easier. It's actually very easy because you're not processing any food. It's not like being a barber or hairdresser or restaurant. You need to actually work on it. If you're only doing the sales, it's the simplest in all the stores, but that actually is the hardest to do, because doing sales is actually if you're a restaurant, if you don't know how to cook, then you think, oh, okay, you don't know how to cook, so you just sell, fashion clothes or shoes or glasses. You think, oh, that would be easy, that's good. Well, you can, but just, you buy and then you sell is what everyone can do. Yeah, if they want to do a business, it's so simple. Yeah, so everybody would try to open a business like that because it sounds very easy, but actually it is the hardest because it has the most fierce competitions, because it's just, it sounds too easy. Well, sometimes I have live feed when I walk along the streets on Taipei, but 1/3 of the stores, they are selling clothes. There are bigger stores that sell, clothes or makeups, and there are so many stores selling similar things. And so think about the customers. Why should they buy things from you, from your store? And so people are trying all different ways. Maybe they would find a celebrity to come. If they have a lot of followers, like a lot of ladies or a lot of men following him or her, and so ask them to come and say something good about their products. And also maybe they will do like a Korean store. They find a young girl on the street and wear those, short skirts and on the street, and that's very sad. It's not that they why are they wearing like such short skirts, but it's just that they're only selling some leather shoes. They just want to attract people to come to that store because there are just too many shoe stores. And maybe you haven't entered the industry, but once you get there, you think, oh my gosh, there's so many competitors. And so competition is very hard. And there's, it doesn't have anything to do with, skills. And if you want to be a lawyer, then you need to at least read so many books and learn so many laws, and you need the license. And I'm now in Taipei. If you go to Taiwan and see on the street how many offices are like lawyers' offices. Well, actually, we have more of these lawyers' offices than restaurants. Then maybe you'll think, oh, maybe I can have an accountant's office. But if you check how many accountants in Taiwan, you see just so many. Okay, if you don't know about all these like high-level offices, if you think, oh, I'll just be a hairdresser, but search in Taiwan, it might be like tens of thousands of hairdressers, and in every industry there will be so many competitors. Why the customers would choose you? Actually, when I'm thinking about this, I feel heavy, and I'm trying to pass this feeling of heaviness to you. Don't just blindly, wanting to open a business. I have giving you lots of examples. A middle-sized city, there are actually thousands of restaurants or stores are applying for bankruptcy. They don't want to do the business anymore. But there are still 1,200 restaurants opening. Why? They just want to make a living, right? Everybody wants to make a living. So Joy said, talking about restaurants in Vancouver or or Taiwan, sometimes it's the the chef he himself who is the owner of the restaurant. He needs to cook, he needs to buy supplies, he needs to manage the store, and sometimes the chef will partner with the owner of the restaurant, and so the chef will only cook and the owner will manage the restaurant, but they look not easy. I saw in Vancouver, like the restaurants very frequently change into different restaurants, and like every year it becomes a different restaurant, and the same in Taiwan. Usually I'll see a new restaurant, they sometimes they'll renovate for like 6 months, especially in the developed countries, they have these requirements, those firefighting department, they require the restaurants to, they have these very strict requirements for fireproof. And so if you can already pass all those requirements, you could almost do everything. In Vancouver or in the United States, just to open a small restaurant, like relating to fireproof, like all these equipment will cost you like $300,000 US. It's just for a small restaurant. If you want to open a restaurant for like hundreds of people, you have to spend 2 or 3 millions of US dollars for just renovating the restaurant so that you can pass the requirement for fireproof. And say, for example, but if it is in Vietnam and it's just maybe even in a country, and well, maybe there's no requirement at all as long as you can cook and sell the food. But in Taiwan, it's not like that anymore. They also have the requirement for fireproof. And I think in Taiwan, in a certain place, they have those karaoke parties. And then they got a fire, and then I think hundreds of people caught on the fire and died, and even the mayor couldn't be the mayor anymore. The firefighting department, the head of the department, of course, they would lose their job. And so in bigger countries or developed countries, they are very strict in these. They don't know how much you spend in it, but at least they have these requirements. I think they're right, because it will affect people's lives. Well, they don't want you to spend that much money, but if you don't spend that much money, you won't be able to pass the, to meet the requirements. But if you're in a countryside in Vietnam, and if you, if you have a restaurant to prevent fire, maybe you just need a big bucket of water. But in Taiwan, those restaurants, I think they also need to spend like hundreds of thousands of dollars to renovate the restaurant. And in Vancouver, I think there was a restaurant cooking like fish heads, and it's already been 2 years. They have already put the sign out, but it's already 2 years. They're like renovating for 2 years. They haven't even opened the store yet. Maybe because he doesn't want to spend that money, but then they can never meet the requirement for fireproof. But who's going to pay the rent? Of course, he would have to pay the rent. Even before he started the business, he already spent like hundreds of thousands of dollars of renovation, and the city hasn't approved it. And still, he's still paying like years of rental, like maybe $1 million of rental already per year. See, even before the business, you're already having so much cost. And we heard some reports about restaurants. Sometimes there are conflicts between the chef and the owner of the restaurant. And then if the chef leaves, then, they cannot run the restaurant anymore. Then what should they do? Well, there was once a friend who chat with me. They have a restaurant, and later he moved to a different industry. And he said, if you want to, hurt someone, just persuade him to open a restaurant. Well, you see, there's so many restaurants. Not every restaurant lose money, right? But it is not easy, that's for sure. And Joy's question is that, say, I'm already a chef and I want to open a restaurant. That would be easy, right? So some people, they have lots of money, but they're not chef. And so some people, they just want to have some funds, and then they can have like half of the shares, and you're a good chef, and your technique, your skills can can be equal to half of the shares, and then we can partner and open a restaurant. But they usually will fail. The reason is that those chefs is like construction workers. Today you're able to put the bricks together or build the walls, but do you know management? Do you know how to promote your business? And some chefs doesn't know how to promote products. And do you know about finance? Do you know about financial management? Do you know, like, you're a chef, maybe you're just one part of the whole work in the business. You're not the leader of the restaurant. Even if you know how to cook, you are not necessarily good at managing the restaurant. So those wealthy people who pay to invest in the restaurant, sometimes they partner with a chef. A lot of times they don't have a good ending because the owner of the restaurant, you don't know whether your chef is leading your restaurant to a good result or a bad result. It's probably he's not intentionally doing that. But sometimes you want to do well, but you might lead it to an end. Yesterday we went to a vegetarian restaurant in Taiwan. Actually, I intentionally observed the restaurant. I'm not going to mention the name of the restaurant though. And so the owner of the restaurant used to sell seafood for 30 years. And now he's a little older, and so he wanted to do restaurant but only sell vegetarian food. And the vegetarian dishes are actually even more delicious than those meat in other restaurants. And they're, the waitress, they were just too quick to bring the dishes away. Sometimes we haven't finished, they want to take it away. I actually went there for 3 times. The owner of the restaurant always sit in the restaurant as if he's eating, but actually he's always trying to greet his clients and also monitor every waiters and waitress. And sometimes the loss of the restaurant is because those waiters or waitress actually were not good at talking, or sometimes give them the wrong food, and then they lose the business. Well, Joy said, I actually remember there was a restaurant in Taipei. And it was a small restaurant. It was actually pretty clean, so we went inside. But their service is kind of strange. After we ordered the food, we waited so long and it doesn't come. We said, we're in a rush to go, so can you be quicker? But they said, we need to bring the freshest vegetable, and we need to cook the fresh soup, and we're really good at quality. And so do you know the background of our owner? And they said, he used to do leather shoe business. And so he said, what's that to do with restaurant? And she said, because he's really keen on quality. Well, we actually, we went there to the restaurant. We just feel like so unhappy. Usually, we try to go to have. I usually would just choose simple food, so that's why we just went there to go and get some noodles. And I'm from the northern China. Grandmaster's just joking. I never chew on the noodles. That's my privacy. So when we get there, the restaurant was not like a normal noodle restaurant. Usually those noodle restaurants, they put the menu on the wall. But this restaurant, it's like a 5-star hotel that they have like a very beautiful, menu. And there were and the waiter was wearing suit and a little bit arrogant. And so look at the dress that he's wearing, and his attitude is very like kind of arrogant. And it's like, you know who I am? That kind of feeling. And it's almost like he's from, well, it just makes us feel very uncomfortable. And so we said, okay, we'll just order the food anyways. And so it's like he's from the guns. But then after we order the food, and then he just give us a small dish of that food, and I said, oh, only that little? And he said, yeah, we're just like that. And his appearance on the face is like, do you know which gang we belong to? It's like, oh my gosh, we come to a restaurant. Do we come to a gangster's restaurant? And he said, oh, do you know that our owner is actually managing a leather shoe company? And I said, oh, I think I heard about the brand, but we've never... we never, but we never bought those leather shoes. But they are just so proud and almost arrogant. And so we only went there for one bowl of noodles, and we waited for at least 25 minutes, even though the noodle was pretty delicious. But we waited for so long. In Taipei, that was not normal. Who can be that patient and waiting for just a bowl of noodle? How can we wait for so long? Did you go and, harvest the wheat, and then you grind the flour, and then you're making noodles? Are you like from the very beginning? So we just went for a bowl of noodle, but then we were so unhappy that we determined that we'll never go back. And when we come out, we saw that restaurant. Well, now it's already been 6 months that we haven't been in Taipei. Now that when we come back to the same location, we found that this becomes not a noodle store anymore, not a noodle restaurant anymore. It's a bakery now. So the restaurant already closed. It's not that the restaurant, even if you have money, you don't necessarily can do good business in restaurant. Those people who can do big business not necessarily can do smaller business, and those who can do well in small business not necessarily can do big business. In different businesses, they have all different experiences and practical experiences, including those celebrities who open businesses. Even this owner of that restaurant, even though he has famous companies, and when he mentioned the name of the owner, I never heard about him because we don't wear leather shoes, and so we don't know about his brand. But when he mentioned the brand, we did heard about this. But his restaurant closed after 6 months. The good thing is, the good side is that the owner of the restaurant, he's wealthy. Maybe that's only a small part of his asset, and so So he doesn't care if he lost money in the restaurant.
就像明明你可以开个小摩托就可以上班的时候，
Even
我一
though
定买个什么跑车、法拉利
well,
之类的上班。
it's like
那个是
when
你
you
个
can
人的
just
一个
ride a
一个
motorcycle
品
to
味
go to work,
你家里
but
钱
you
多，实在烧的
buy
话
the
你
most
自己开飞机上下班
luxurious
对
car
不
to
对
go
对
to
其实
work.
是没有
Well,
必
you
要的一
can
个花费嘛。
take a flight to
因为
go
这
to
个老
work
板也太
too
有
if
钱了，
you
卖那么
want
多
to
双
spend
皮
money.
鞋，攒了那
And
么
so
多的
that
钱，这个
owner
钱
of
不
the
烧一点的
restaurant
话，不
maybe
足以
he
显
already
得有
made
志
too
气。
much money
所以他就
from the
干了
leather
这
shoe
件事。
business, and so that's why he's burning his money
就是
in
老
this
板烧钱的
restaurant.
方法还是比较
So
正当的。
every
说为了
owner
横
has a
向发
different
展，
way
拓
in
展
burning
经营，
money,
对
and
不
but
对？
this is
所以你
at
有我的
least
智慧
this
只
is
是
not
在
a
皮鞋上面。
bad way.
其实
And
做面条
he
我是
has
很有智慧
wisdom
的
in
啊，但是他真的不知道
selling leather shoes,
普
but
通的面条
maybe
到底是怎么做出
he
来的。
he's not experiencing how to sell noodles and how to satisfy the clients who want to buy noodles. Well, Joy said yesterday, Grandmaster has a live broadcast on the streets on Taipei. And so there was an online friend said, well, today there will be a live feed about choices, and then they all want to have prizes. They all want to have prizes from Master so that they can have blessings from. And Master said, "You're so greedy. You always want prizes. Those are just, for fun. Don't listen to them." Okay, let's continue our talk. Well, it depends on my mood. If I'm really happy, and then maybe I'll think about prizes. If I'm not in that mood, and then I won't give out prize. So it's up to your fortune. Well, if I say, oh, you only come here and listen to my teaching just for the prize, then don't stay here. Go away and do your work. Well, Joy said they just want to have more blessings. But Grandmaster said, actually, my teachings can create more values in your life. Because when you are living in this human world, you need money. Whether you're wealthy or you're not wealthy, you need money. So we are talking about one of the most important points of life. It's even more important than marriage. Whether what kind of job, or whether you should find a job or create a business. So don't only focus on prices. Oh, yesterday we talked about Mars. It's because of Mars that you asked this question, right, Joyce? And so Joyce said, I like to share some numbers in entrepreneurship. So there's a number in Taiwan, employment consulting service center. And so they have statistics about, those stores. Like stores, only 10% of the stores can survive after 1 year. And after 5 years, there's only 1% can survive. That's in Taiwan. Actually, in Taiwan, it is very active in their business. In North America and Europe, their economy is more stable. What about that? Actually, 80 to 90% of the new stores cannot survive. And less than half of the stores will be able to survive after 5 years. And there's some other numbers about franchises, because they've already, the brand is already famous, and so you're just joining the franchising, and you just invest into the local store, and the brand name is already well known. So when I search for the success rate for franchises, is only 5%. Actually, in North America, also the same, 80 to 90% of the franchises also fell. So entrepreneurship is not easy. If you are an owner of a store or the owner of a company, if you're having some investment, and so you need to have some fund so that you can start a business. And so the first choice is to choose which industry, whether it is the right decision, it's the right choice. If it is too advanced, and you think, oh, now we're going to sell, those private rockets or flying machines, and maybe that doesn't match the need of the society. It's too advanced. But if you choose the industry about cars, like driven by cattle, then it probably is too old-fashioned. And you probably can only sell 1 or 2 cars per year. If you choose to sell vegetables, even you're busy for a whole year, you don't make too much money. So choosing the right industry, you need the right view and what part you are very good at and very familiar with. In the whole world, there are maybe tens of thousands of different businesses. You don't know which one fits you, so how to choose? So you need to use the right, perspective, and you need to be familiar with it. Sometimes maybe you're not familiar with that, but you have a feeling of it. And say, for example, some very advanced science or technology, even though you have never done it, but you know it's the future need, and that future need also is connected to the present time needs too. And we last time we mentioned Elon Musk, and so he did the business of sending the rockets to the space. And before, you have to those rockets, when it comes back, it becomes garbage. And so he tried to reuse and recycle those rockets. And I hope that they can reuse it more than 10 times instead of only 2 times. I believe that's what he wants too. And so the cost of launching the rockets will completely will dramatically reduce. Say, for example, one time the cost is $1 million, and if every time we only need to increase like $200,000 and we could use it again, then the total cost will be dramatically reduced. And also, launching the rockets will be very, the orbit will be very accurate, and it can come exactly to the exact point where it was launched. And when it's launched, it will go to exactly that orbit to run. So this is a very advanced technology, and when they first have the plan, it must be a plan that many scientists can accept, because they've already, there might be thousands of times that they have already launched rockets. They just need to improve the technology so that they can reuse the rockets. If we are like, selling like tickets for going to rockets and going to the space, that might be too advanced. That would be probably beyond the acceptance of us, of everyone. So when we're choosing the industry, it couldn't be too old-fashioned and it couldn't be too advanced. And so Windows, Microsoft, they have a computer like from 4 years ago. That computer at that time was very advanced. It was so advanced that it's like 5 years ahead of the computers at the same time. But it was not very well sold because it was too advanced that it doesn't it couldn't be sold. So that kind of computer didn't sell very well because it cannot meet the needs of the current society. And so if that computer is only for my own use, that's not, mass production. If you are doing that as a business, and if you want to sell that product, you need to
开发、生产和
find
销售的
the
这样的一个过
proper
程，
product
对吧？
that it can
那你过分前进也卖不
sell
了，过分
in
老化
mass
更卖不了。
production. And if it is too
但是呢，
old-fashioned or
已
too
经
advanced,
成
then you
熟的
won't be
大家
able
都
to
在
sell.
卖的，
If
等
it is
你再
already
卖，
a
谁
matured
买呢？
technology,
你看这个难不难？
if you want to
所
sell,
以一
it
个
would
成
also
功
be
的
hard
一
to
个
sell.
企业家，
So a
能够成
successful
功了20-30
entrepreneur,
年以上的，
and if you
其
can
实
be
是很
successful
艰
for
难。
20 or 30 years, it's
对，
actually
所以我在
pretty
对这个创
hard.
业的这些看
And
法有
so
很多。
I actually have lots
那
of
我们再
thoughts
举例
about
一
entrepreneurship.
些
We've
这个
given
国际名
some
人，
examples
我
of
们就在
some
台湾有台湾名人
important
是吧？
celebrities.
那
Well,
台湾名
celebrities
人
in
有
Taiwan,
一个
there,
叫什么大哥
there's
来着？
let's give an example of celebrity in Taiwan.
姓啥？姓吴。
对。
He's a
吴大哥，在维基
MC
百科上
very
说他干了12个行业。
famous, and he said he
他
has
是他最
has
著名的
involved
是主持
into
人啊，
12
确实是
industry.
大家非
He
常的
was
欢迎，非
well,
常受
he's
欢
very
迎
very
对
famous as
然后
an
他的这个
MC,
精力也
and
很
really
旺
very
盛
popular,
啊
and he's
兴趣
very
也很广泛
energetic, and he
对
has
他涉
lots
足
of
到
interest,
餐厅、
and
咖
he
啡
so
馆、
he
服装
did
店、录音
restaurants
室
and
什么
coffee
唱
shop
片公司、
and
出版社、
you know
健身房数吧，
sound
有好几
recording
十家这种
video
店呐还是什
sound
么的
recording studios and
做了很
you
多
know
的
disc
事情
companies
但
and
是这些店
publishing
到现在
store
陆陆续续
press,
全都
and-
关门
but
了。
all of
对
those stores
然后还有呢，
closed
他是几年前的
sooner
时候
or
他
later,
投资了一个，
and
他先是为一个 LED 的那个灯啊
the first
做那个
at
做
the
那个
at the
代
beginning
言，
he
结
started
果他觉得哎
to
这个
you
技
know
术好啊，他就
promote
他就
an
研究进去了，他就
LED
投资
light,
了。
and so he started
做
to
老板
investigate
做老板
into this,
对
and he wanted to
投资
be
8个亿
the
赔了
boss,
8个亿，
but
赔了8
so
个亿
he invested in
赔
it, but he lost
好
like
所以就
800
是说他在一
million
个方
Taiwan
面是一个
dollars.
明星，他不
And
是
so
在其他方面
he
也能
was
成为明星
a
的。
star
太好
in
的原
one
因呢，
industry, but
就是我觉得他
he
赔了
was
钱我很痛快。
well,
啊，
Grandmaster
不是
said,
这
"Oh,
个
that's
原因。
wonderful. It's not that
所以我觉
I'm
得他很
happy
有
that
钱。
he lost money. It just means
也
that
很
it's
痛苦
wonderful
啊
that
我
he
想
has
的只
so
有
much
8个亿
money.
赔，
He
他至
has
少有16个亿还
800
存着呢，是
million
吧？
to lose.
那不知道。
不知道
That
了，我也不知
probably
道。
means
啊
that he has maybe
反正很有名。
那还有一个还有一个
billion
英国的一个
dollars
那个厨师
saved
叫
before he
杰米
lose
奥
that
利
much
弗
money.
哈，Jamie
Jamie
Oliver，
Oliver
他呢是在
is another
BBC 的
example.
那个电视台里边做那个美食
He's
节
a
目的主厨而
英
出
国的
名
He's a
的。
BBC
chief
电台是巨大
chef
的，
in
对，
是
BBC
世界
in
一流的
England.
巨大的
And
电
so
台。
that's
他们的工
one of
作
the
人员至少得
most
超过
famous
几万或者是
TV
几十万。
station,
对，
and
能
they
够被
have
他们
maybe
选上，然后连续做节目
tens
哈。
or
著名的主持人，
hundreds
是
of
吧？
thousands
对，他
of
是美食节目
employees,
的主
and
厨
so
主持
he
人。
was the
奥利弗儿
Oliver.
不是
His
药师
name
佛
is
的
Oliver.
奥利
会
弗啊，奥利
Well,
弗哈。
it's a
Oliver,
pronunciation
对。
Joe
听着名字就不
because
靠谱啊。
Oliver and
对，他呢
Ver
做
sounds
这个
like
做这个
Buddha,
主
so
持
they're
做
talking.
这
Oh,
个
it's
这些
not
方面
medicine
网红
Buddha.
啊，这些
Anyways,
方面确实很
so
成
he
功。
was
他
very
卖
good
了
at
5000多
selling
万册的食谱，
食谱是
selling
就是
online.
怎
So
么
he
做菜的
sold
这个
卖这个书，
50
书
million
哦
卖了这么多
卖了
recipes,
5000多万册，
Yeah.
卖了5000多万册，
50
真是很
对
厉害。
million
也是确实挣了很多
books
钱。
of
他有自己的
recipes,
餐
and
厅
so
吗？
he
那
made
他
a
当
lot
然
of
想开
money.
餐厅了，
And
开了吗？
so
开
he
了
wanted
开
to
了
open
2个
his
品
own
牌的连
restaurants,
锁餐
这
厅，
两
and
个
so
品牌
he
一
连
个
锁
是意
had
大利
two
菜的，
restaurants.
一个是那个烤牛
Well,
排
two
菜的，
brand
肯定
name
卖得不错
restaurants,
吧？
一共几十家
and
呀。他
like
当时许
dozens
多
of
的都很
restaurants
好，他
under
就说
these two brand names.
他是个厨
And
师
one
嘛，
is
他说
Italian,
有的时
one
候
is
我可能就
something
会
else.
出现在
Anyways,
某一家餐厅哈，
and
一个是
so
照顾招待
he
一下
would
那
go
个
to
顾客，
one of
不管
the
说了病，哎，我
restaurants,
还
and
即
then
兴再做几道
sometimes
菜
he
这
would
种。哎，这个好
cook
像
some
这个
food,
这个概
and
念很好，
so
所以
the
就开了
concept
那么
was
多
pretty
家。
good. And so he
那他
opened
那
like
个往哪
dozens
时
of
间去啊？
restaurants, but he was so
这个是
busy,
一
so
个
he
原
doesn't
因
have
啊，
time to
方
go
方
to
面面
those
的原因。
restaurants.
其实第一
And
年
so that
就
was
是
only
有
one
亏
of the
有赚，
reasons. So
基
the
本就
first
没成
year
功。
he
啊，
made
好
some
不容
money
易
and lost
挺
some
了
money,
将近10
but
年的时间，
um,
几十家餐
finally
厅全
he
部破产。
like
关键
after
是
year
赚
after
的。
year
没有
he
啊，破
lost
产
money money. And after 10 years, all of those restaurants closed. And he lost a lot of money. And even if he put money in there, he couldn't save those restaurants.
还是大姐真好。
大姐人，这我一激动把你本名叫出来。你说这个在国外就是说破产这个词是轻易说的嘛？
You know, we don't usually easily say bankruptcy, right? No. But because they have already maybe owe lots of money from the suppliers, Because if you go bankruptcy, then the suppliers won't get the money back, and then the employees won't get their salary. Well, will bankruptcy happen on a celebrity? Well, bankruptcy is a legal term. It means that you have to lose all your money so that then you can call this is a bankruptcy. Then you won't be able to even have your own credit card maybe. And then you cannot open any store. I actually met some people who bankrupt and they have to even ride a bicycle because they couldn't even afford to buy a car. It's really a big problem. It's like falling from heaven to hell. So what it means by bankruptcy, it is really a serious problem. So he used to be a very wealthy celebrity, and now he's a very famous but poor person. And he has those two franchises under two famous brand names, and they all closed. And he actually, before they bankrupted, and he almost he put a lot of funds trying to save those restaurants, but he couldn't save those restaurants, and he himself almost got also bankrupt. And also Britney Spears is also very young and popular and sings so well, and she's super well. Oh, show us her picture. And she also opened a restaurant, and it was in Manhattan. I forgot the name of the restaurant. I think it was Miller, but only after 6 months the restaurant was closed because of the problem of hygiene. And so it's like right after that was just too quick. Maybe right after they renovated and it already closed. You know, sometimes in Chinese there's a term of burning money. So what does it mean? This probably is burning money. You want to start a new business, but if you made a wrong choice, and then you will lose money and maybe even ruin your name. And so another Steven Spielberg. Yeah, he's a very famous Hollywood director. So he was so good at making those movies. And so he was very, very good in directing those movies. And so he also opened a restaurant. Look at the picture of the restaurant. It's like under the ocean, and it's so like fancy and luxurious, and so he had one restaurant in Los Angeles and one in Las Vegas, but only 4 years or 5 years, both of the restaurants closed. Wow, this director must be very wise because he made so many good movies. Yeah, Joy said, you know, these restaurants, this restaurant looks like in a movie, right? It must be. He must have spent a lot of money in, renovating the restaurant. I would say it must be more than $5 million, right? Even the simplest restaurant would cost you like $300,000. And so at the beginning, maybe some restaurant would, maybe they just want to take some pictures of the restaurant and then they will go there. But eventually there are fewer and fewer people to go to the restaurant, and then they couldn't make money. They have to close the restaurant. Well, maybe he's very wealthy
应该还有回老本行。就是
也不懂装懂。
He can handle the loss.
所以这种例子真的是名人创业都
Yeah, even the celebrities, when they try to establish a business, they can experience failure. So, entrepreneurship, this choice, what would be the result? Well, Grandmaster says there will be 3 kinds of results. Yeah, maybe you'll become like the god, or maybe if you do small business, even if you have some success, you won't be very successful. Very. So if you make even doing a small business and then you can make some money, you'll be happy, but you won't be very popular. And some other people, maybe it's a huge company, huge income. Wherever you go, you're a celebrity. Around the whole world, like even the politicians or other celebrities would invite them for dinner. So if they can be that successful, like huge success, maybe they are like the god of wealth now coming to the earth. Yeah, those people are like Elon Musk or Li Jiacheng or Wang Yongqing, like Guo Taiming, they're from Hong Kong. Yeah, those most wealthy people in the family, in a country, yeah. So you have to really acknowledge that they are really very good at doing business. But in the process of turning into such wealthy person and such, success, well, in the process, sometimes if you even just made one step, one wrong decision or one wrong investment or one detail that you didn't look after well, you could even go crazy. So in Chinese, it sounds very close, but it's completely different. Yeah, so the Jurassic Park, the director for Jurassic Park is so successful in making the movie, but when he opened a business in a restaurant business, he still failed. Well, he's actually the most talented person who should really do bigger business that the whole world would admire him. So he is the god of maybe director, but he's not the god of restaurant. And so he's probably good at one industry, but not necessarily the other. So like I said, a chef not necessarily is good at managing the company. And those who are good at managing the company or the restaurant are not necessarily a good chef. So everybody has their own specialties. In any business, if you can achieve the ultimate success, and if you can truly realize your dream, you must have experienced like countless times of failures and loss and setbacks until eventually you reach the success. During that process, either you like turn into ghost, like not the god. Maybe you lose your money, you lose your friends, you lose your even family, your wife, and maybe you or yeah, so there's only 3 results: either become the ghost, or maybe go crazy, or become the god of that industry. And I remember before when we talk about family precepts, and we mentioned a Japanese entrepreneur, and because it was after the Second World War, it was very hard for him even to find a job, and so he went to a factory that made porcelains, and he worked very hard in the factory, and after a few years he invented a new generation of porcelain and because he is very advanced in that skill, he wanted to establish his own business. And so he established a company to do that, to make that porcelain, because he's very good at that technique or that technical part, but he never learned about management, he never learned about sales, so he started to learn about those. Those kind of porcelain actually were used in, surgeries. Instead of using metal parts, they use these porcelain pieces to replace people's knees or other joints or bones. And so he got huge success. And so he heard that, knees can be replaced with this porcelain. But so he thought, okay, he could also use that for maybe hip replacement. But before he got the approval from the ministries, he started to make mass production, and then he was sued for that, and so he had to bow on the TV to the whole world, the whole country. So it's like his position is from the highest to the bottom, and then from the bottom of his life, he started again, and he followed every single rule and every single regulations, but he was very resilient. And eventually he stood up. It was not easy, Grandmaster said. That's in the medical field because it has it relates to the human health and safety. And so any kind of medication, when you put it into mass production, you definitely need to be approved by the health authority after a long-term investment or a long-term experiment. Even though you intentionally to be beneficial for people, but because of the quality of the porcelain, but because of maybe if there's radiation or, well, the health authority needs to test all of these so that they can protect the patient's health and benefits. Yeah. So he should know that he shouldn't, proceed without the approval from the health authority. He was too risky, and he was against the law to do that. And so that decision to put into mass production before the approval almost put his company to an end. That's why he bowed to the whole country. He was just trying to leave a way for his company to survive. It was probably a failure because of maybe greed or too bold. Yeah. You can use it for yourself, but if you're selling the product, you cannot do it without the approval. So even though he learned management and yeah.
这些经历的话，也使他让他在做重要决策的时候，
So that failure made him exceptionally careful when he make any choices or any decisions. It's like walking on thin ice. And so a
如果一
company
错就会招错，
a company's
对不对？
CEO
要是对的话就
it's
全盘
like
皆赢，
the
要是
emperor
错的
giving
话
out
全盘皆
orders.
输。
If
所以
that's
太
a
重要
right
了。
decision, it will
所以
lead to success, and if it's a
不
wrong
容易
decision, it could
成为一
even
个经营
lead
之神，
to
成为一
huge
个成
failure
功的
or
企
an
业
end
家
of the company.
是
So
非常
become
的
a
艰难。
successful entrepreneur
还有
is
刚才师
not
傅讲，咱
easy.
们
It's
讲的
very
一些那个
difficult
演艺
actually.
界的人
And
哈，他
well,
创业
just now we
他
talked
的
about
都
some
失败了。
celebrities
那
in
师
the
傅能也能
the
看看
show
分析一下有什么样的原因吗？
industry. Can you
其实原因也是乍一听吧，
Grandmaster, can
其实
you
很
analyze the
复杂。
reason for their success and
但是
failure?
我比较，但是我再声明一次啊，
Actually,
这
it
我
might
这听
be
我聊天啊，
complicated.
我这就是一言堂，
I like to
没有什么真理。
you
我
know
说错了呢，当
remind
事
you
人你也别
again.
生气，
Well,
好吧？
maybe
你也
I'm
别追究我
wrong.
的责
Don't.
任。
It's just
我
my
呢
own
就是在这儿
opinion.
就是自己信口胡诌。
Yeah,
啊
it's
但是
just
心得
my
有余，
just
你觉得对你
representing
有帮助是
myself.
最好的。
I hope
我
that
是
it
希
can
望我
help
们的
you.
网友
I'm
和你的后人
hoping
哈
that my
能听
our
取我的
online
这个片
friends
面之
and
词，增加一
our
点教
future
训。
audience will
演艺
listen
界
to this
人士
teaching
经
and
营餐厅
learn from
和
this
其他
and
制造业
even take a
为什么不
lesson,
容易成功
learn
呢？
from this lesson.
是有一个先
Some
决条
people,
件。
some celebrities,
作为
they
演艺界的人
experience
士，就
failure
是
in
演
their
员
business.
啊，各种各样的演员或者导演。
Some
导演还
actors,
好一点，
actresses, or
因为一
directors.
般的演员，你经营的是自己
A lot
和
of
自己的
times,
身体和自己的才艺。你的才
Usually,
艺
the
都是通过
actors
你
or
的身体
actress
表达出来的。
is you are
对不对？
before
就
you
比
were
如周
only
润发，我今天
managing
我
your
今天演一
own
个黑社会老大，
acting skill
我
or
今天
your
演一个民族
own
英雄，是吧？我今天
yourself.
演一个公子
Like
哥，
Zhou Renfa,
你用自
he
己的
was
身体塑造
well,
的
he's
所有
a
的行
famous
为，
actor, so
对不对？
he
当
was
你成为知
using
名
his
演员之后，
body, his
虽然
face
收
to
入确实
to
也不低，
act.
但是收入
Even
多
though
高，
he
你
was
经营
very
的是你
successful
自
in
己，
acting,
而
he
不是经
had
营了一
also
个
high
群体，
income,
更不是
but
经营了
he
某一
was
个
not
产品。
managing a whole group. He
就是
was
这样。
not managing
就是你
another
只要
product. He was only
长得
managing
好，有
himself.
机会，
As
有
long
人
he
包装，
has
有人让
good
你拍电影。
appearance and
但
there
是
are
你
other
真掌握
people,
了这种
you know,
感觉了，
promoting you,
你就
and
成为一
and
个
then
影视界名
you
人。
grasp that skill
对吧？
to
你看过去
present
是唱
yourself,
戏，
then maybe you
你
can
只要把自己的
become a
戏唱
celebrity.
好了，
In the
对吧？
past,
你就出名。
those
是吧？
people
中国古代
who
不是古代的，
play
几十
like
年前梅兰
operas,
芳先生，
like
是吧？男
Beijing
人
opera
唱女啊，
Mr.
对
Mei
不对？就这个
Lanfang,
反差，
who
是吧？
was
你
very,
现在
very good at,
世界
he
各
was
地，
a man,
你
but
看马来西
he
亚
act
几个胖胖的小伙子，脸黑
like
黑的，
a lady,
他一个
and he
人
was
唱
very
两个声音，
famous.
男生
And
一会儿男的，一会儿女的，真把人
Another
搞得晕头
actor
转向。
would
是吧？
sing,
你中
would
国又
act
出一个
both sides. One is a
周
man,
深
one is
啊，
a
这
woman.
小伙儿长得
And
也
in
很帅，一
China
开
is
口
another
小女生，
周
比一
深,
般女生声音还好听，是吧？
and he has a
大鱼
very
就是他教我的啊。
beautiful lady sound, a girl
就是
sound,
很多，
and
就
so
是我说是叫个人特性，个人的一个叫表演能力和才艺，让自己成为名人。但是你多么有名，你不
yeah,
是个著名的企业家。
he
你的
was
管理
able
能
to
力还不
manage
如一个
himself
小
well.
小
He has
餐
good
馆的老板
presentation skills
会
for
管理会
himself,
经
but
营，
he's
因为
not
人家没有这份
good
才
at
艺，
management,
他要靠经营
management,
产品
not
而
even
能够养
as
家糊
good as
口，
a restaurant
能
owner,
够对付得了这个房租，
because
这
those
能雇得起
restaurant
人
owner
不
needs
容
to
易啊。
rent a
所以
place and
演艺
have
界的
a
人是经营
team
的自
to,
己，
you know,
而不是
including
经营
chef
的
and
一
waiters
个
and
产
waiters,
品
and
和一
you know,
群
it's
人，
not just
知
himself.
道吗？所以你
But for
哪怕
those
世界有
actors,
名，
actresses, or
你的管理能
directors,
力远
even
远
though
不如一
they
个
are
村长。
very famous, but
所以
they
我就是我觉得了。
have
我觉得特别
probably
有道理。
never
还
managed
有
a
呢，
group of
你演艺界
people.
的人，你要去学习，去研
And
究的是什么
also,
呢？一定是演艺。
对呀，
你在休息的时间，你看书也好，看电视也好，上网也好，请问你是学的是啥，看的是啥？
还是演艺，
还是演艺界嘛？
usually because they are
好了，今
actors
天
or
我就是我
actresses,
研
so
究
they
我辞掉
only
了，
talk,
我一定要
well,
经营好一个餐
learn
馆。
about
你要潜心
you
去
know,
修行才可以。
performance or
餐
drama
馆最好
or
经营者，你是
acting.
到餐馆里做最
But
低级的那个工作，要干10年以上，才可能
in a
领会
restaurant,
到那个经营之道。
those people
我
who
们刚才讲
worked
到
in
那
a
个
restaurant,
著名品
maybe
牌的
after
便利
10
店老
years
板开
they
的那
will
个
eventually
面馆，
understand And the key for success, we mentioned about the example for the leather shoe company owner who opened the business of a restaurant and then failed because he was still standing in the position of an owner of a famous leather shoe company. So he didn't know about
来吃一碗面，来
restaurant.
果腹的这种
What
感
is
觉。
he didn't
所以
understand
最成功
like
的
for
这个面
regular
馆
people
是从
coming
路
to a
边摊开
restaurant
始的，是从夜市
to
开始的。
wanting
他们如果
just a
做
bowl of
这样的
noodle,
比较
what they
单纯的小
feel.
餐馆，
And
是
those
开一个成
successful
功的事。
restaurant owners,
但是
maybe
凡是
they
富
started
人、贵
from a
人、
very
名
small
人要
booth,
开这种
a
餐
very
馆，
small
开一个
store
就
to
倒一
open
个。
a restaurant.
信不信由
They
你自己试一试。
understand, you know,
因为你同
usually
样在吃
those
面，你站着吃
restaurant
面的
owners
角
will
度
be
不
very
同，知道吗？
successful.
慈禧太后她弟弟
The
开了
same
个
thing as,
那个
you
那
know,
个就是窝头店，一开
going
一个
to
月就倒闭
have
了，
a noodle restaurant.
因为他们在皇宫吃的，慈禧太后吃的那
Yeah,
个
say for
那个窝
example,
头
an
哈，是
empress
32
brother.
种内容的
He
馅儿混
opened
在一
a
起，
noodle
18个
restaurant.
工序才蒸成那
When
个馒
he
头。
thought about in
我妈
the
蒸馒头
royal
拿着
palace,
啪
their
一面一
noodle
个
is
啪
made
往
of
上一放，
maybe 32 different
15
kinds of
这窝
ingredients
头
and
就出来
different
了，是吧？那
cereals
慈禧太后呢要做3
or
天
grains,
啊，
and
那么
then
多果
they
仁
have
果
to
馅，我都没
maybe
听说过的。
make that
对，
like for 3
买得起
days.
吗？
But if he
我们
opens
那
a
个馒
restaurant
头
like
是
that,
5分钱一个，
who
不是
can
那个窝头
afford
5
to
分钱
buy
一个，
such
人家那个要50两银子
such
才
a
可
bowl
以
of
换一
noodle
个，
or such
它的
a
成本就那么
a
高，卖
bun?
给谁呀？
Yeah,
能买
but
得
their
起的
cost
慈禧
is
已经
already
死
so
了，
high.
是吧？
So who can afford to buy such a
那他这是吃的国
such
库
an
的钱呐，
expensive
皇宫
a
人吃的
bun?
国库的
Yeah.
钱，国库再穷也供得起慈禧老太太吃
So
吃
Empress
窝头啊，
Cixi,
再贵也吃得起，对不对？
she
对，
of
所以
course
那
would
你要
like
做这
this
个
kind
买
of
卖经
bun,
营
but
的话呢，
it's
你
like
卖给
most
谁？
luxurious bun, and it would cost so much. And if you're doing a business and selling this luxurious bun, you won't be able to succeed.
那个就适合咱的口味。
Yeah.
对，
And Joy
适合
said
你
we went
啊，
to
适合我的。
Kangjian
肤色
beef
适合你。
noodle, and we
对，
really
那
like
一家
that
就是一
noodle.
个
That
很正宗的
restaurant,
一个，
beef noodle
就是已
restaurant,
经在台湾应该是家喻户晓的一个企业，
that's
对
a
不对？
very
所以就
famous,
是物美
well-known
价廉，
restaurant. It's
量多
very,
啊，面条
you know,
多，
good
肉多，
price.
碗
They
大
have
啊，价
big
钱非常
bowls,
的适中，
this
这样大家
Yongkang
就
beef
会
noodle,
去吃的时候每天
and
都
they
排
have
队。
big bowls, lot of
当然高
noodles,
贵的
lot
人
of
可能也
beef,
不去啊，
and
说
so
嫌
that's
那个
why
地
they
方太
have
便宜了，
lineups to
所以
buy
因为很
noodle
多人
soup,
不是为了吃那碗
beef
面，
noodles.
而是说吃的是一种尊严。
Sometimes
所以我认识
some
一个
people
商
they
人，
are
他
not
是
going
比较
to buy
有
noodles. They
有点
just
名分的
want
商人，
that
对吧？他请我吃面，
elegance or
是去了那个
dignity.
希尔顿酒店吃面，吃
There
的
was
这个
once
不
a
是才
business
是。
person
你这吃个
invited
面，
me
2个服务员
to
站在跟前，
Hilton
先生再来点
Hotel
醋，
to
我说
have
有完没完啊？这
some
是，你要的辣椒酱吗？我说要。你要四川的还是要意大利的？
to
少
have
废
some
话，
beef noodle, and
能
then
吃辣的就可以。他们觉
and
得我
that
怎么这么
really
没
made
品
me
味啊？
very
对吧？
uncomfortable
就
because
是
they keep
烦人的，
asking
你
me,
吃面，2
do
个
you
服务
want
员在
some
那唠叨给你，
spice?
什
Do you
么
want
死
some
盯着你，我都
vinegar?
怕他
Do
口
you
里
want,
滴到我碗
you
里。
know,
是
they're
吧？
always standing
人家
by
要的是
me,
一
and I
种尊
don't
严，是一种
feel
身份。
comfortable when they're
可是，一
standing
般
beside
在
me when
台
I'm
湾也好，
having
在
the
中国也好，
noodles,
吃
and
一碗面
it
条
was
的人，
just like
就是普通生活的饮食而已，有那么复杂的这种服务吗？
so
对不对？所以我都
noodle
不习惯让服务员总
restaurant.
在那盯着你，你干嘛？你怀疑我
It
还能把你碗偷
usually
走啊？
it's
咋
just
了？
for
对不对？
yeah
就是说你那个
normal
这个吃饭吃面的地
people
方
just
不
to
同，
go.
所以
Yeah,
做这
I'm
种小
actually
餐
I
馆
don't
的
really like
一定
people
是
to watch
就是
me when I'm
仅仅
eating.
开餐馆的
and
人，就是为了养他那3个孩子，能够
So
正常的生活。
the owner of the
所以他
restaurant,
们
if
就是
he
做的是
just
第一
intended to make a
投
living
入，
for his
还
own
有呢
family,
薄
for
利
his
多
3
销，
children,
对吧？
and
让百姓
and
觉得很实
he
惠，
wanted
经济
to
实
have an
惠、
attractive
实用。
price and good
这是他
quality
经
and
营
give
的
a
准
very
则。
generous
所以
amount,
他的管理上也比较
and
省
then
事，
he's
对不
more
对？
likely
全家
to
老小一
succeed.
块儿上，
And
就是这
so
样。
his whole
这个
family
上
will
任父
also
子兵
work
吧，
in the
全家人
restaurant.
全是一家的大亲
You
戚，
see?
都在那干活。但
Yeah.
是呢，他们也经过几十年的经营之后哈，
After
他们也
you
顺
know
从了一种
many
虽然是家
years,
庭成
maybe
员，但是我
tens
们
of
是个
years
企
of
业，我们要有企业管理
managing
的
this
精神。
restaurant,
我服务的就要服务
he
好，我们家
always
生意才
keep
好。
the good
后厨的
service,
人，我也
and
把质
so
量做得好，
the
我
chef
们家生意才
also
好，
need
我们才有饭吃。所以
make
他们
delicious
才
delicious food so that they always keep that spirit, and the whole family, they are having the same goal, and they are also used to the way of management. Sometimes in some restaurants, even though all the employees are from the same family, they're relatives, but sometimes they cannot do good business because maybe, oh, this is my auntie, so she can go, she can just take it and without paying, and then after months you see that, oh, you're actually losing money. So this beef noodle restaurant, they can stay there and manage for maybe tens of years. They probably, they're very clear in the management that they have very clear rules and regulations. They cannot just, take noodles without pay. Because otherwise, family business is even harder to manage because everybody thinks that, oh, I'm just a family member, like I'm the owner of the restaurant. And then they just take without pay. And then this restaurant will never be able to make money. So those grocery stores or convenience stores or restaurants, if it's a family business, it's actually not easy. So now we're talking about a lot of the difficulties in the business. Usually you go online, you just see successful stories. Usually people, when they experience failures, they don't want to write it in a book. And even if they write a book about that, you don't want to read it. Usually you want to hear stories about success, about heroes, about positive things. If you fail, if you lose, then you don't want to hear stories about that because that's unlucky. But if you only want to hear lucky stories, but if your business lose money, maybe because you never read stories about those failures. Even including those people who go to Harvard University or Cambridge University, they would learn the success stories about 200 successful companies or 400 successful companies. But have you heard the stories about even just 100 failures? Or have you heard about those failures? And if you read those failures, then you can learn from the lessons and avoid the failure. And there was Sun Tzu, when he was writing the book about how to fight the walls, he didn't say that if you read this book, you are going to win. He said, yeah, if you know yourself and if you know your enemy, then in every war you would win, you will not die. So in Chinese, that's also pronounced as die. So if you need to have 3 meals a day, if you know how to eat, do you know how to make the food? And even if you know how to make the food, but do you know how to manage and sell different quality or different kinds of food? So for that noodle store, whose owner is a leather shoe company, he was very used to very elegant business. And so he probably should start a business that is more elegant, not just noodle store.
每个人提的包包都是几十万美金的包包，那个首饰全身加起来的时候，只要打劫它，等于打劫了银行一样的，全是这种贵妇。
So the daughter of that famous gambler, they actually opened a business for rice noodle restaurant. And so she wanted to show that she's independent and she's not using the money from her father. She wanted to show her ability. And so she opened a business for rice noodles. But that was trouble. She was trying intentionally to do low key. She actually is like a princess. But
你懂它吗？
she doesn't understand people who are coming to buy rice noodles
那也许
because
出主意
those
的人
people
说，
are
只要你
usually
出面，
not
我
very
实际上
wealthy.
我懂技术，
Usually they
我
only have
会
a
这个销售，
little
我懂
money
管
just
理
to，buy
你都
a
很
bowl
难
of
成。
noodle.
因为
And
你
so
不是
she
一个直
doesn't
接管理人。
understand her customers.
我们在前2天
And
在
a
吃
few days
的
ago,
就在台北的一个做素餐的，
in
刚才我
a
说的那个
vegetarian
做
restaurant
了
that
30
we
年的
mentioned
海
just
鲜
now
很
at
成
the
功，
beginning.
现在退休了，开个素餐馆也很成功。他那个大胖的老板像个大地主一样，有个大光头，胖胖的，每天去
So
就
the
在那盯
owner
着客
of
人
that
看。
restaurant,
除
he
了看客人，
stays in the
还重要
restaurant
的
every
看他
single
所有的
day,
工作人员的
and
动向。
he would,
所以把他那个
greet
工
his
作人员
clients
给
and also
逼的就是我
monitor
还没吃
all
完就
his
想把我的
stuff.
盘子端走。我怎么这么勤
So
快啊？怎么没一个人这么
That's
勤快
why
的一个餐馆？
the
就是
waiters
他
and
老板就坐在那儿，
waitresses
是我认识
always
他老板。
try to take away the dishes even before we finish it because
所以他那么有钱，那么
his
成功，
boss is sitting
他
there
开这个
watching
餐馆
them.
也不算小
And
哈，
so they have to be
他
very
一定在
diligent.
第一线盯着。
Well, he
像我们
already
台湾
has
那位
a
吴帅
pretty
哥，
good
吴大
sized
帅哥主
restaurant,
持
but
人，
he still
他投一
stay in the
LED
restaurant every
投
single
餐
day.
馆，投各种品牌店，他开了几十种行业，对不对？
对，
你是三头六臂的哪吒呀？不是吧？
There's another
你投入多少精力在
entrepreneur
做它？
who invested into
你
many
干的行业越多，
industries. The
失败
more
的机会就越多。
industries you involve
因为
in,
他
the
没听我的
more
课。
possibility of failure.
对。
对，
Because that person
我们在
probably
讲家
didn't
训的
come
时候，
to
我讲
listen
过
to my
一那个字
teachings.
儿叫啥来
In
着？
my
一门深
family
入。
precepts teaching,
对，
we mentioned
他
about
应该
we
最
need
擅
to
长的
focus
是
in
将
one
他
thing.
和演艺界的一些人
He
员
was
经营好，这
Actually,
是他的最
he's
擅
very
长、最
famous, and
熟悉
so
的
he
一个行
probably
业。
that's
说这个
the
也讲到
industry
这个
that
知
he's
己知
most
彼。
familiar
其
with.
实
So
的话，
he
这个就
need
等于是
to
不知己，
对
对吧？哈，
他总以为有名有钱啥
he
都能
thought
干，
that he's famous
其实
and
是
he
错
has
的啊。
money, then he can
有
do
名有
everything.
钱，是你
It's
在这个行
probably
业
wrong.
上成功了才
You're
变成有
famous,
名，
you're
成
popular
功了才能有
because
钱，对
you
不对？
succeeded
但
in
是
one
并不，当
industry,
你去
so
做
you made
别的，
money in this
让大
industry.
众
But
来
if
进行
you
消费的时
go
候，
and do
它
business
会
in
出现一个
another
临时新
industry,
闻效果，
at the
名人
beginning,
效应。
maybe
就前一个月，
because you're
是不是啊？
famous, then maybe the first
就
month
像第一次的，就是一次性
people
火
would come
箭
to
一
buy
样，
it. It's
一次
like
火
the
箭冒完火之后
rocket,
就再也不会冒
and
火
the
了。
rocket
对，
will
所以
you
名
know
人效应只能起到临时的作
explode and have
用。从
lots
长
of
期的话，大家
light
要的是
just
实惠，
instant.
对不对？
And for long
你说这
term,
个
people
这个
probably
侏罗
won't
纪公
come
园的
and
导
buy
演
it.
是不是啊？
对，
哎，那个史先生对不对？
嗯，
你说你装潢
And
弄了一个一个叫做海底世界的装潢，
对，
那花那么多的钱，大家有的人
The
冲这个
director,
装
the
潢
director
去，
that we
冲这
mentioned
个
just
名
now for
人
the
名义去，对不对？
tourist
等
park,
去完了之后，大家新鲜感一
at
旦
the
过去的
beginning,
时
his
候，不
restaurant,
过
the
如此。
under
他的比如
under
说
the ocean
大家找毛病的时候，他的
restaurant
菜
at the
一般，
beginning
要
probably
实惠
people
嘛，
feel
不实
it's
惠。
very fancy
那
and
他作为一个大导演，
it's
天天拍电影，他能盯着餐
new
馆
for
管经
them,
营吗？
so
不可能，
不会吧？
they want to
那服
go
务人
there.
员怎么服务的？
But
嗯，
because
所以
he's
有
a
可能
very
是
famous
厨师把
director,
客
he
人
won't
气
be
走
able
了，
to
还有是
sit
服务员
there
把人
and
赶走了，对
monitor
不对？
the
还有的是
management of
后
the
厨把
restaurant
你的
every
食材
day.
偷
So
走
he
了，
never
都
know
可以让你
how
倾家荡产。
the chef was doing, how the waiters were doing, and they could
人之初，
lead
性本善，这叫胡说八道。人之初，性本
A lot of
善也本
people,
恶，这才是真理。
you know, there was a
对吧？
Chinese
你不
old
管
saying
他，
that
他就犯错误。
everybody's
你管得不
kind,
严，
but
他就给你
actually
偷东西，
it's
对不对？
probably not
就是这
true.
么个状态。
A lot of
所以
people,
你
they
要
are
经过，你要
kind,
会
but they
做，
are
还要
also
会
not
管，还要
kind
很
a lot
严
of
格的管，
times.
才可
You
能有一
need
个
to
好的服务。
manage, have very,
所以为什
very
么到了国
strict
台湾
and
的网站上
very
说有人说
clear
骂他是土皇
management,
上，对
and
不对？
then you
那很
might
严格，他没那么
earn
严格
money.
的管理制
If
度
they
的话，
don't
他
have
那
a
个
very
今天那个
strict
iPhone 做
management
那么好，
system,
他能出得来吗？
how
对不
can
对？打开
even
iPhone 里头出
iPhone
现一个蟑螂，那不是一个
become
天
so
大的笑话，对
successful?
不对？
If you
他说
open
一
the
定要
iPhone
精益
and
求
then
精，
there's an
精益求
insect
精，就这
inside,
还是
there's
错
a
误的。
yeah, then you
所以
would,
一定要
how
对
can
自
the
己的企
iPhone
业
be
能管理的
successful?
部分，就是
So
对内要越严越好。
The management need to be very clear and very strict. The George Bruce Jobs, yeah.
他在他的旗下工作的员工，又很幸福又很痛苦。幸福的是在一个知名品牌当中工作。
The employees, they're probably very happy because they're in such a famous company. But if the management is not very strict or very clear, then they probably will lose money. If the boss is not strict and always smiles and happy at everything, then it's probably not right. Yeah. Thinking about your rental and salary that you need to pay the employees. And so, yeah, he's actually very, very strict. Everybody would say that he's too strict, but that actually helped him to be very to be successful. If he always look after this person because he's your uncle and that person is your aunt, and then that would be a mess. If there will always be problem with the computer or the cell phone, who will buy their products? Yeah, like for Hitler, you think that he's monopoly and he was very cruel. You say a lot of bad things about Hitler. And yeah, if you go there in the Red Sea manufacturing center, they would have to be checked everything in case they would steal any information. But because of that strict regulations, they have very good quality. So when you do business, even if you have lots of money and even if you choose the right industry, you could still have a lot of risk. You may still fail, you may still lose. The bigger the business, the more risk it would be. You're like walking on the thin ice. When you are in this human world, it's actually very similar to the forest. You actually, it's very risky. Yeah, everybody is waiting to bite you. Like maybe there's a tiger there, maybe there's a lion there waiting to find opportunities to bite you. You would feel very sad when you hear this. But it's very risky when you're doing these.
Master, when you're talking about entrepreneurship and employment, many young people are very interested in this, and we have a group of young people. Many of people ask a lot of questions. Some people are seeking employment, and they have their questions about choosing a job. And there are also people who want to start their own business. There is someone who asks that they do have money at home, and their father can support this person with many social relationships. And he wants to ask Master, for such a person like me, would I be more successful? Also, you have money, but there are different types of having money. Say, for example, you can have just $1. Say, for example, in the United States, an ordinary employee might earn $2,000 a month. Also, although you earn $2,000 a month, but when you go to a restaurant to have a meal, it will probably cost you $10, and there's also a high income tax. And when you're sick, if you go to see a doctor, the medicine fee is also very expensive too. So a very famous doctor might not be looking after a poor person. And so there are always people complaining about the health system, healthcare in US. And so also people are making a lot of money in US, but they also have a lot of spend.
expense. If you're already wealthy, then you don't need to put it into investment. At least in 20 years, the money is still yours. If you invest it into opening a restaurant, a small restaurant, you might need to use $500,000 to do renovation and $200,000 for equipment. And whatever you have spent on the restaurant, you have spent it, you have lost it. But what if you didn't make this investment into this restaurant? You still have $2 million. You can spend it slowly. And so if you already have money, don't make any more investments. But many wealthy people, they are tempted. Many people will tell you that if you don't worry about your money will not help you. And some people will say that there's always inflation. Although you have $1 million now, but after 10 years, that $1 million is only $500,000. And so then the salespeople talk the wealthy people into making investments. As long as you take out your money, we can help you to make your money grow. Who are these people? Are these fairies coming back to help you? Do they have any connection with you? No, they don't have any connection with you. They're just sales. Maybe what I'm saying is not very lawful, but it seems that they are trying to con you. They make it sound very good. If you don't give them money, then you're just a reluctant, wealthy person. But when they take the investment and there is a loss to the investment, you cannot get anything back. And they will just say that you were greedy. You were the one who gave me the money and wanted to make a big profit. Maybe that's what they would tell you. And so these salespeople, if you give them $1 million to invest, they will probably get $80,000 for themselves. And these fund companies want to stimulate more people to invest. So is there any better ways to spend that money? If there are 3% interest every year, that's already very good. And that's very difficult to earn already. And when you get back your investment, that is already a blessing. So if you feel that you are wealthy, don't make any more investments. If you want to invest in an enterprise, it might be even harder for you to gain more money. We showed you some statistics, right? That many startup businesses less than 1% will survive after 5 years. So only 1 in 10,000 startup businesses survive. So some people might say that, Master, so if starting a business is difficult, then what if we do something simpler? We can join a franchise, right? We can join McDonald's or Kentucky's Fried Chicken, or we can join 7-Eleven, right? These are world-famous brands. Juezhen, read it. Read what the Taiwanese government has summarized. In Taiwan, 95% of franchises fail, only 5% succeed. It sounds awful, right? The Taiwanese market, the success rate of Taiwanese franchise store is 2.5%. times higher than that of other newly established businesses. This statistics comes from the Taiwanese government, and it's probably the same in other countries too. It doesn't mean that when other people who join the franchise can profit, it doesn't mean that you can profit too. So these franchises, usually they will protect their bigger picture first. When you try to join them, they have calculated everything, that I am a well-known brand. When you join me, you should earn the profit easily, right? So each McDonald's chain restaurant, you don't need to do your own advertisement, right? And the McDonald's company will do the advertisement for you. So you don't need to get your own customers. Customers comes to you naturally. And that's what all franchisees are thinking. So many people will create a franchise and make it open for people to join. When you join, you need to pay for a franchise fee. In Canada, even for a very small brand, you need to pay $200,000 to join the franchise. And in addition to this, you also need to pay training fees and other fees. 20 years ago, if you wanted to join McDonald's, first, we don't welcome any franchisees because many people are not suitable to be a manager. If you want to join, you have to be successful in the restaurant business from 8 to 10 years. And you also need to have tax receipts from the government to prove yourself. And you have to be very successful in your business before you can join the McDonald's franchise. And also your age cannot be very old, and you have to speak good English, and you have to have good education. Even when you fit all these requirements, you need to pay them $600,000 to McDonald's to join their franchise. If you have such money, why don't you just open your own restaurant? So every company, no matter how famous they are seeking profit for themselves. When you join such a franchise, you want to take advantage of us, right? If you do, then pay me the money first. So when you look at these beautiful advertisements of beautiful men and women saying that this is a very good restaurant, that's not advertisement. But when you want to join that franchise, then you need to start to make payments. And you will need to pay a lot. And it's the same for all franchise stores. In many countries, there are some small brands. For example, in Taiwan, they can make bubble tea and say that I am the most famous bubble tea store, and I've opened one in Paris. Look, my brand is Asha Bubble Tea. And we have a store near the Eiffel Tower. Joining our franchise, we have a store in Tokyo joining our franchise. So they promote themselves as if they are a very famous company, and they ask you for your payment to join the franchise. They're very smart, and so they start a brand and promote it and then make it a franchise. There is actually a lot of risk in such a franchise. And so if you are giving McDonald's $60,000, it's actually safe for you because that brand is over 60 years old. whether people love it or hate it, many people eat it. But what about some smaller brands? Before you are able to hate it, the small brand has already died. But only after you join the franchise, you realize that this is nothing, that you are on the parachute. There's no way to get down. You will never get your money back. Because the fee to join the franchise will not be returned to you. And you also pay for rentals of the storefront and to buy merchandise. So generally, that's a pattern. People think that you will survive by joining a franchise. But just look at the statistics from the government. It's the same. It's not much more successful than starting your own business. Master, so that question was, your answer is to save the money and not risk it into investment. So if you already have money, you should put the money into the trade that you are already very familiar with. For example, the beef noodle store on Yongkang Street. For example, the older generation has already opened the restaurant for many, many years. After the child graduates from a good United States university, they might despise their family restaurant. They might say that, oh, your family business is just a beef noodle store? But maybe other people will have business cards from jewelers, from banks, or from IT companies. Maybe you are ashamed of introducing your family business to your friends, and so you don't want to continue your family business, that you want to get into banking or get into IT. That sounds like a good idea, but it might not be a very successful business. But what if you continue with this beef noodle restaurant? You might even be able to open a second store. And only when you have run the business of this noodle store, then you might gain a lot of experience. No matter how the society progresses, everybody needs to eat, right? And so it might be easier for you to become more successful, but it doesn't mean that you will not fail. If you were arrogant and you're not happy when you face your customers, they might leave. Thank you, Master. Thank you for answering this question. There is another question, and it's very representative. Someone says that I am employed, but I'm thinking about starting my own business because I want to realize my dream. I want to prove my abilities. So I'm preparing by being employed. Master, do you support such an idea? Yes, I do. That's your idea. I will support everything. Because there's fate. When it's time for you to become successful and become wealthy, you will. When it's time for you to fail, wealthy people will blindly invest and become and lose all their money. But what we're sharing today is we're sharing a lot of examples. Many people have never come down to think about how you have earned your money. Some people might say that I've earned the money, so I'm grateful to Buddha and to my ancestors. Yes and no. How much have your ancestors have worked hard? If they don't work hard, or if they chose the wrong trade, then they might fail. And only when everything is working well and when there are blessings from your ancestors and from the Buddha, then you can work better. Even if you worship, even if you prostrate every day, but if you are in the wrong trade, then maybe the result will be different. Last night, there was a street vendor selling grapes, and the street vendor was chanting. And I feel that if your product quality is good, then even if you don't chant, people will come to purchase your product. So don't just simply believe in the divinity, but also you need to work hard. When you are already employed and you're thinking about starting your business, it's okay. It's very difficult to analyze a person's mind. Many people start their business and become successful, but other people start their own business and bleed to death. I've met other people. So say that this person is a manager. Half of the company employee will complain about that manager with their boss. But when I look at this manager, he actually has very good virtues and ethics, and he's actually good to the employees. But half of the people will come and complain about this manager. I've tried it. Say that if this person needs to leave, and if the person who complained about the manager the most replaces the manager, then I realized that this new manager have even more mistakes than the old manager. Although you can complain, you can say a lot about it, but you might not know how to do it. That's a very interesting pattern in this world. Also, you seem to be a leader, but you might not be able to start your own business. For example, in the Han Dynasty, there is someone whose name is Liu Bang. At the time, people saw that whoever reaches the capital of Xianyang first, whoever can become the emperor. So the competitors was Liu Bang and Xiang Yu. So Liu Bang arrived at Xianyang first, and so Liu Bang became the king of Han. And so later on, he established the empire of Han. So at the time when King Liu Bang arrived at Xianyang, he had over 100,000 soldiers. At that time, there is a young man. His name is Han Xin. So Liu Bang already has 100,000 soldiers. And Han Xin is just a young man who is trying to find a job, trying to find a platform. Let me tell you about Han Xin first. Before Han Xin became a soldier, he is a royalty who became a poor family. But Han Xin still had the money to get education. But after he received his education, it was very difficult for him to find a job and feed himself. When it's time to eat, he would try to go houses by houses, and he would walk in front of a house and try to smell the fragrance of the meal. And he will come in. Hey, I'm just coming in to take a look. Is everyone okay? How are you? And people would know that he doesn't have food, so they would invite him in to eat. And many people will say that you're a young man. Why don't you do something or farm? Why are you going around and trying to find a meal? And there's also the story where Han Xin was scolded and made fun of. If you crawl beneath my legs, then I will give you a bowl of rice. And Han Xin agreed, and although he was humiliated, but he got a bowl of rice. Is Han Xin a smart person? So Han Xin went to Xiang Yu first. Xiang Yu at the time was almost like the United States president today. So it was very difficult for Han Xin to get into contact with Xiang Yu. And when he met Xiang Yu, he was put in charge of the kitchen. And when he tried to make some suggestions, he was beaten. And so Han Xin left. And Han Xin then went to Liu Bang. When he worked with Liu Bang, it didn't work out. And so he fled Liu Bang's army too. In the ancient times, if you fled from the army, you will be punished. And so Xiang Yu tried to run away several times, and he was brought back. The last time that when Han Xin tried to run away from Liu Bang, a general, Xiao He, chased after him, because Xiao He knows that Han Xin is a very smart and a very smart person. And so he chased after Han Xin at night and brought him back to Liu Bang, and also introduced him to Liu Bang. At the time, many people was fleeing away from the army. And when Xiao He was chasing after Han Xin, Liu Bang was wondering if Xiao He wanted to flee away from the army too, because Xiao He was chasing Han Xin for 3 days. Liu Bang was worried if Xiao He fled away, he would be losing his advisor. And so he was angry too. So when Xiao He came back, Liu Bang was very angry. Why did you leave? Xiao He said that I am chasing Han Xin. And Liu Bang was wondering, who is this young man that versus you chasing him for 3 days? And because of Xiao He's introduction, Liu Bang talked to Han Xin for 6 hours. And afterward, Liu Bang was very excited. Liu Bang was excited, and he said that Xiao He is a true general. Han Xin, let me ask you a question. I can only order 30,000 to 50,000 soldiers. If with too many, I can't direct too many soldiers. And so Liu Bang says that I can only direct 30,000 to 50,000 soldiers. What about you, Han Xin? Han Xin said, the more the better. Liu Bang said, can you direct 100,000 soldiers? Han Xin said, the more the better. What about 200,000? What about 1 million soldiers? Han Xin said, the more the better. Han Xin was not bluffing. He is a genius. He is a genius general. He was born for war, and that was the truth. And because of this conversation, Han Xin was made the general. And at first, Liu Bang only gave him 2,000 soldiers. But after 1 year, Liu Bang gave him more and more soldiers. And at that time, Han Xin was only 22 years old. Now, currently in the modern world, 22-year-olds might be asking money from their parents. But Han Xin was already a general. So Han Xin was able to direct 1,000,000 soldiers. And he is such a genius. If we compare him to our conversation today, he is someone who needs a job. He can be a professional manager. He can be a super CEO. But he is not the president. But he can have the control. He can have the management abilities. So he can have the executive powers. And Han Xin is such an executor. And so Han Xin needs to use other people's platforms. So he is an employee, but not an entrepreneur. So he needs to be employed under Liu Bang to realize his abilities. He is an employee and not an entrepreneur. But Liu Bang is an entrepreneur. As an entrepreneur, he has a broad heart to receive, to accept these executives, to help him to manage the company. Han Xin is such a good general. And there are many smart generals that was working under Liu Bang. For example, Zhang Liang, Xiao He, and Fan Kuai. These are all very smart people. They are all like geniuses. Such people, such smart people, they are not entrepreneurs. They are employees. Also, they are geniuses. And also, Jiang Ziya, we talked about him in the last session. Jiang Ziya could not start any business. Any business he started failed. But these failures made him realize that life is difficult and money is difficult to earn. Everyone's life is difficult. Also, Jiang Ziya is a wise person, but it was difficult for him to maintain his business. And what about us? That shows that entrepreneurship is more difficult than employment. And if you want to create your own business, you have to have that ability. If you only have one skill and you want to start a business, you have to be very careful. You need to have a very comprehensive knowledge, and you also need to have resilience to stand to the failures. If people stole your things, if people sabotage you, would you be resilient? Everybody can endure the happiness, but most people cannot endure the bad news. And some people might even end their life when there is a bad news. Even many wealthy people, when they still have a lot of money, they would end their life when an obstacle happens. Also, you have the IQ, you have the EQ, but do you have the resilience to endure the failure? When you have that resilience, then you can be successful. Look at the United States presidential election. during the election, everything will be dug out about your life, and people even make rumors of you. When you're a public figure and you have to apologize to the entire world, do you have such a resilience? Only when you have such a resilience, then you can be successful. How much fortune you have, how much bitterness there will be, you have to be able to digest that failure and bitterness. We talked about Guterres, the former United States Secretary of Commerce, and also Zhuge Liang. They are all employees, they're not entrepreneurs. And we talked about Liu Bei. Liu Bei is an entrepreneur. And that's why Zhuge Liang went to Liu Bei to find a job. When Liu Bei and Zhuge Liang worked together, it was a perfect pair, and they were successful. When a person has a lot of abilities, even you're just an employee, you're still a great person. If you don't have a lot of abilities, then just being able to feed yourself is already enough, and that's very good. That's already very responsible. And what's most important is not to lose your job so easily. Thank you, Master. Some people, maybe they were driven to desperation, but they started their paths on entrepreneurship. Master, what would you remind such entrepreneurs? How should they work toward their success? You're asking about people who have already started the business? Yes, maybe people who cannot find any job and they can only start their own business. I think you are asking about the question is who is suitable to start their business, right? Yes. Yes. It's difficult to start a business. What should they be careful about? I don't know. Every business runs into different obstacles and challenges. Let me tell you my opinion of what type of people is suitable to start a business. First, the entrepreneur would be someone who cannot find a job. That they are, for example, if you have very good academic grades, and even before you graduate, many companies will come to you to recruit you, right? But what about for people who didn't have very good grades and they won't be able to go to university? And it will be very difficult for them to find a job. So people who have already been driven to desperation, such people are suitable to start a business. They don't know how to do anything else. They cannot study, they cannot socialize. But some people are just geniuses in making money. They cannot do anything else but to be a leader. It sounds very weird, right? There is actually a rational reason behind it. Because in a business, even if you work very hard, there are always things that you cannot plan for, and there will always be things that you cannot understand. Even if you understand a lot of things, there will always be challenges or unplanned events. A successful entrepreneur is not successful because of their wisdom, but because that they persist, that they strive for the business. That business is almost their life. because they endure this, then they become successful. If you have good grades, you have good family, and there are always big companies chasing after you, then you always have a way out. Also, you have one job, but you're always longing for something else. Although you are working in this company, but your mind has already run away. And when pressure comes, for example, the government investigate you, or that if your employees run away, if your partner runs away, if your family runs away, what would you happen? When such pressure comes, who can endure? There's no way out, but there's only one way, and that is to persist. Many people's success comes from that persistence. Many people fail not because they are not wise, not because they don't have money, but because they cannot persist, because they don't have resilience to pressure. And they don't have that resilience because they have other way out. Because you have other way out, then you give up on your business. You give up on the business you started. So people who are successful in their own business, because they don't have other way out, this is the only way that they have to persist in. They persist, even dying, and that brings them to the successful. People would say that it is the rebirth of the phoenix from fire. And what would it become? Some people say that it's a phoenix. The phoenix dies first. If you are not prepared for die trying, then don't start a business, don't start an investment. You don't have the resilience. If people are talking bad words about you, you can't resist it. Then don't start your own business. If you start a business, then you persist in it because your family is waiting for you to feed them. You don't have any way out. If you are just a single person, and for example, many people take their own life because they were pushed. Did you? No matter what you do, there are always people who give you pressure. The only reason you don't take your own life because you have responsibility, because you have the need. You have made a promise to your wife that I will care for you until death. And if you cannot take your own life, then you have to find a chance to relive, right? That's difficult. You have to find the chance to rebirth. For successful people who have been successful for more than 25 years, they probably have lived through that cycle already. If you live until you are 76-year-old, then you are truly a successful person. Otherwise, it's very difficult to say whether you are successful or not. You will never know that if 2 years later you will make the wrong investment and lose everything. It's only when we are at the end of our life, then we will be able to know that if we have successfully passed all the obstacles in life, then we can relieve ourselves. Then we can. So only people who don't have any other way out, only these people can start a business. Yes, so if you are wealthy and you have other way out, don't start a business because you won't be able to persist in it. You will probably run away from it. Only people who only have this one road, only have this one path, then they will persist in this business. Many successful people have been reborn many times like the phoenix before they become successful. So wealthy people, wise people, people who are very good in academics, people who have very good looks, you're probably not suitable to start a business. Look at my serious face. Juejun, you look very beautiful. You are not suitable to start a business. You're very smart. You can do anything. You can be a super employee and demonstrate your abilities. So only people who doesn't have any way out can start a business. And some people, they are already employed and they're thinking about starting a business. You can just think about it, but don't make a move. These thoughts are happy, right? And it's safe. But once you make that investment, your dream will be broken. If you have money, why do you invest it? After you invest it, that money might become a piece of waste. Some people will have a second question. If I want to start a business but I don't have any money, how do I start a business? When Liu Bang started to rebel, did he have any business? Did he have any money? No. If he had money, he would never have rebelled. And same to Emperor Zhu. If he had money, would he have become a monk and then started a rebellion? No. It's only because they don't have any way out. They don't have any money. They only have their life. And that's why they went to rebel against the government and then became an entrepreneur. So they actually started to become a soldier first, and then they become a general and the boss of the army. So entrepreneurship is not for any ordinary person. If you haven't been a street vendor, don't start your own business. We talked about Elon Musk before, right? And Zuckerberg, right? Also, they have other way out, but they are different. Musk wanted to change ways of transportation, even space shuttles, right? He has an ideal. He absolutely have to do it, and nobody can stop him. And Zuckerberg also had his ideals. He learned programming, and he wanted to bring everybody closer, right? And he wanted to increase the communication in the society. And that's how he started Facebook. And he wanted to use the internet and service people. And for people's communication, to share your poems, to share your creativity, to increase the amount of communication. And that is his dream. He is doing it because of his dream, and so nobody can stop him. And such people are suitable to start their own business. When you have a sense of mission, such people are suitable to start a business because they will use their life to persist, to achieve their mission, and such people will be successful. Otherwise, it will be difficult to say whether you can be successful or not. So our friends on the online will have to assess yourself, assess if you are suitable to start your own business. Yes, many people are not suitable. Most people are not suitable to start their business. Only the minority of people are suitable to start their own business. When your mindset are very have achieved, when you have an achieved state of mind, then it's easy for you to earn a living. So last day we talked about Guterres, right? When he was a CEO of large companies, his annual salary was over $7 million. And many automakers, many sales of automobiles can make a lot of money annually too, as long as you know how to service, right? Some salespeople will despise of you, depends on what you wear or what bag you have, and such people won't be suitable to start their own business. They won't even make a lot of money when they are an employee. And so now you know that not everyone is suitable to become the boss. Even though when you are already employees, you can be dreaming of starting your business. But remember that there are a lot of risks associated with entrepreneurship. But with employment, the risk is very small. Being the boss has a greater risk. And so if you want to have a safe and calm life, I would suggest you to gain abilities and knowledge and then become an employee. If you have a way out, don't start your own business. Entrepreneurship will drive a person become an all-knowing person. It sounds good, right? But it's a very difficult, challenging process. After you hear this, do you want to cry? Master, your words are actually very grounded and makes us want to look into ourselves and assess ourselves, and to give you to make you happy so that you can have a good meal. Let me tell you the story of someone I know. So this person is from mainland China. I'm not going to tell you his name because everybody knows him. So this person, let's say his name is Mr. Wang. Mr. Wang is a contractor. So the contractor will find people to help to work in architecture, right? To fix a roof or other things. So slowly he grew to build houses and tall buildings. When he had saved $1 million Chinese dollars, somehow he got confused, and then he bought a piece of wasted land. There was no village on it, and this piece of land is in the middle of two large cities. In between these cities, it's only swamps or farmland. There's nothing else, and there's no passers-by too. So he bought such a piece of land, and he took out mortgage from the bank, and this piece of wasted land is over $80 million when he purchased it. And then what did he do? He worked himself into hell. His wife scolds him every day, and he started drinking. And he started to become angry because after buying this piece of land, he wanted to build many houses. He thought that with 60,000 Chinese dollars, he can build many houses, and he can sell each house for $3,600. But after he has built the houses, nobody buys the house. And the bank who took out mortgage, he couldn't repay the bank. Nobody is buying the houses. The bank was worried, and he is worried. He thought that that's it. When he was a contractor, he can make money and buy himself a beer, and he have some spare change. And his wife was very proud of him when he was just a contractor. But when he became a developer, there's no way out. He doesn't know what to do with these houses. He tried to take his own life twice by hanging himself, and the string broke, and he was saved. It was very difficult for him, and he was blessed. He met another person who studied overseas, and this person is a very good planner, and they met by accident. So contractor Wang is the contractor Wang met this planner Wang. And when contractor Wang told his story and told his challenging situation, the planner went to stay with the contractor for 3 days. And he didn't answer any questions. He just listened to and watches what the contractor does. And 3 days later, contractor Wang's cousin came back. And that cousin is from one of the best elementary schools in Asia. And planner Wang told contractor Wang that, I think I have a way out to help you. And that solution is actually from your cousin. Your cousin is a headmaster, right? He's a headmaster of a very famous elementary school. If you recruit many more students, and you will have more earnings every year, would you want to do it? Yeah, sure. Then you can build a second school here in this area, and then we'll pay you afterward, after a few years, right? And the headmaster said that, okay, sure. Yeah, since you're paying me money, why not? And so they cooperated together. And so this piece of land that contractor Wang has still owns a lot of money from the bank, and the bank is chasing after him, right? And so right now, when the Chinese economy has reboosted, you are one of the first to get rich, right? But what about your child? Your child needs knowledge to make a living, to become wealthy, right? So we need to be we need to take education seriously, right? What did Confucius, what was the saying? The saying is that we can be poor everything, but we cannot. So the saying is education is the only way out. Right? So you have to, only through education can you become an official in the government. You can become a person who can benefit all the people. So you have to study, you have to have education. And so they planned the city, and they started to take out more money to borrow more money from the bank to make advertisement on national newspapers. If the requirements was very strict, you have to have a very high annual salary, and if you purchase the house in this district, then your child can go to this very famous elementary school. And so that piece of land was in Guangzhou area, and people from Tibet, from Xinjiang, from Hebei, they all came from very far away just so that their kid can go to this good elementary school. But what's the requirement for you to get into the elementary school? You have to purchase a house. So there are many houses, and there is a golf course, and there are cinemas, right? It's all well planned, but there's no actual houses. So you have to pay money first. So when they received the money, they started construction for the school. And so they used this. So they used this to get money to develop the school, develop the house, and develop the entire area. It all started working. A few years ago, I remember seeing in the news that he has retired, and he has handed the business to his daughter. I had met him. Yes, and he is a very lucky person, right? Yes, but he has went through a great challenge, and this is now the final success, right? When the enterprise gets larger, you actually have less control of it, right? It's like an octopus. Your tentacle might not be listening to you. And each tentacle controls its own project and money, and maybe they don't tell you what they are doing, and so it's very difficult to manage and control all the tentacles. If one of the tentacles of the octopus is poisoned, maybe the octopus will die from it. Even though your business looks successful now, but we'll never know what's the end of it. And I know that in all these years, it's very difficult to him. There are many unpleasant events that happened. So he has passed to his daughter over 5,000 billion Chinese dollars. It's a very large sum, right? Does it bring you happiness? You can strive toward it, but it's very difficult. At every different stage, our planning would be different because the environment will be completely different. So when you hear about these successful stories, it sounds amazing, but every one of these successful people can write 10 different books of their ups and downs. I know somebody from Hong Kong. So one of his daughters has a spouse from France, and that daughter-in-law studies IT. So the daughter-in-law works with the French government to work on IT, and that billionaire told me that during this cooperation with the French government, they lost over $7 billion. I asked him to give me I asked him to give me advice in life, and he told me, don't work on things that you don't know. So you should work on things that you are most familiar with. Don't do things that you hear from other people and think that it might work out. There might be only a 0.1% chance of success. But what if you work on something that you and your family are familiar with? Maybe then you have a 1% success rate. So today, I hope that you have understood the concept. These are the words from my heart. I don't want to comfort you, and I don't want to cheat you. And I wish that when you or your children make decisions, you have some examples to look on. And I want to remind you that only when you don't have any money, you start a business. But I oppose you borrowing money to start a business. When you do that, you will probably lose all the money that you have borrowed. And then when you do that, you will try to start another business, and you want to find a job, because that borrowed money is now your hard-earned cash, and so you will cherish it less. And the less you cherish, maybe you will lose all that money. Only people who doesn't have any money can truly start their own business. Okay, how about let's do some prize draw? That will be happy, right? Okay, let's do the prize draw from the Chinese platform first. Actually, when I stop you from starting your business, you are actually making your money, right? If you already have $1 million at home, then you already own $1 million, right? You're lucky today. All right, Juezhen, call out. Stop. Oh, wait, let me get ready. Stop. Let's take a screenshot. So the first winner is Shu Mintao. Second is Li Shiyuan. Who is it? Oh, he's right here. The second person is Kunfang. Oh, Kunfang is from Toronto. The third person, the fourth person. Kin Fu To, Yung Fu To. That's a very interesting name. All right, let me give you a prize. The next person is Zhong Xiu, so these 5 people can receive a prize. Congratulations.
Master, what are their prizes? Where are my tea? Yes, we have the teas here.
上次大家看到的哈，这5位是我们台湾的名产哈。
So these people can receive the teas that was offered to me by our Taiwanese practitioners.
对，就是反正台湾产的阿里山也好。
So these are made in Taiwan.
台湾的茶叶真的是不错的。
They are very good tea.
一盒茶哈，这5位啊，每个人都得
So
一盒。
So these 5 people will each receive a tea from Taiwan. All right, let's do it again on the Chinese channel. Stop. And take a screenshot. All right, the first person is. The first person is Zeng Shujing. He just said that I can win the prize. It's actually Timiao again. The second person is Xianghua Jin and Han Deng from Los Angeles. And the fourth person is Van Xinlong. Xinlong. Xinlong is from the Energy Bagua Center. And Jin Chankong. So how about 6th person? And Xi Lan Li. So these 6 people, what should I give you? The first 3 people.
我们这个慈悲音
The first 3 people can receive these canvas bags for eating utensils, and they are waterproof. They're very good. All right, so the first 3 people will receive these canvas utensil bags. The last 3 person will receive a tube of incense. Either agarwood incense or sandalwood incense. These are genuine incenses, and they're very good to ward off evil. All right, let's move on to the English channel now. Our friends online are migrating from the Chinese channel to the English channel. Let's wait for them. All right, let's get started, Juejin.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 好，停。
Stop.
咔嚓。
咔嚓。第一位
The first person
这个缩写的名字哈
is Jin JW.
Jin JW 哈。
Jin JW.
好，第二位
The second person
叫谭
is
Tan
A
这我都不会读这个。
好，没事，他这心里正美着呢。
好，第三位
The third person
恰恰
will be Cha Cha.
恰恰，啊，这好名字哈。
That's a very good name.
跳舞似的哈。
It's like the dance Cha Cha.
Katie Zeng。
The fourth person is Kate
第
Zeng.
5位 Karen Tony。
The fifth person is
1、2、
Carm
3、4、5，这6位吧。第
Tony.
6位
The sixth
YK
person is
Lo.
YK Lo.
好，这6位。
恭喜他们。
Congratulations.
茶叶。
The first three people, the first three winners will receive our Bodhi pu'er tea. Everyone will receive 1 cake of pu'er tea. These are organic pu'er tea. Organic pu'er teas are very rare now. And I drink this pu'er tea every day.
第四位
The fourth winner,
第四位是这个金菩提64
the fourth person will receive the new 64 trigram.
第六位
The fifth and the sixth winner
我
will
设计
receive
的那个长的那个大衣。
the jackets that I have designed.
那个大衣还没，哎呀，
现在这
现在没有样品，嗯。
There's no
那个
samples
那个
here.
图片来放一
Do we
下
have a picture of it?
哎呦，连帽大衣哈，
连帽大衣。
对，哎呀，
It's actually a long jacket.
胖的、瘦的，谁穿都好看。
Everyone
对，
looks
对，
beautiful
对，
in
对，
these
这个万
long
能大衣
jackets.
哎，
真是有点
颜
热，
色也特别的好。
热情加热烈哈。
And they're very
那
warm
个我
too.
们在慈悲音网站上也可以引起
They
大家
are
也很喜
available.
欢。
These coats are also available on cibeiyin.com.
价格非常好。
大家
It's a
不要
very
以为
good
我赚了
price.
钱哈。
Don't
这
feel
些
that
皮包
I
这
will
些
make
衣
a
服
profit
1分
through
钱赚不
these.
到，
I
都是
actually don't make any
赔本赚
profit
吆
out
喝
of these
就是为了
bags
大家
or
高兴
clothing.
觉得设计这个
I
样子
just
好
want
看
you
就是这样的
to
1分
be
钱赚
happy and look beautiful in
都
these
把
coats.
快乐幸福送
哎，
给大
已经都
家。
有了哈。
嗯，还有
都有了。
韩文平台。
All right, how about the
好，韩
Korean
文平
channel?
台
好，大家又移民了啊。
Now everybody is migrating to the Korean channel, right?
哎，该你喊了，该你，我怎么喊了半天，播了半天没人声音呢？来来来，
来了，我都。
All right,
来，1、2、3、4、5。
let's get ready.
上山打老虎，哎，好，
停。
Stop.
好，你看我们都是诗人。艾迪这个骗子怎么跑到这儿来？
ID.
移民这么
How
快
come
呀
you're so fast in
哎呀
migration? You're already on the Korean channel, right?
但是我们不管是不是韩国人哈，
We don't.
承认自己
It's
是韩国
okay
平台
even
就可以
if
了
you are not Korean. As long as you're on the Korean channel, that's
第二
okay.
位这个我就
So the first
孙
person
啊
is
这
ID.
个
The second
理解为
person
孙猴啊
is
是什么
Sun or Sun.
还有一个优胜，优胜，
The third person
2、
is
3
Yu Shen.
永相。
The fourth person
好单独。
is Yung
第
Xiang.
6位
有韩国人吗？
The
敖
the
令
fifth person is
Ai
Ai
Liang.
Liang.
亮。哦，
Is that
这
Ai
都是
Liang?
韩国人哈。
Ai Liang
1、
is actually
2、3、
Korean.
4、
1,
5、
2,
6
3, 4, 5,
Oh.
6.
好，6位哈。
对，
All right, that's
包
6.
括艾迪这个韩国人。
啊，艾迪也是韩国人了，就他
ID is now Korean now, right?
哎，哦，
All right.
礼物
Prizes?
6罐台湾。
How about 6 cans of
哇
Taiwanese
没
tea?
错
好，今天我讲的
All
这些
right.
内容呢，
So
听
the
起来
content that
还
I'm
是
talking
有
about
点压力
today
感的哈
sounds a
但
little
是
bit
也可能是我自己的感觉，
de-
因为我太
depressing, right?
看重这些感觉
Maybe that's just my
那
feelings.
就是想让这些年轻朋友
I'm
们
very
解决
serious that
就是有的确实
I
很
want
多
to
青
give
年人
you
想创
a
业
shortcut.
这个我个
Many
人没
young
有
people
理由
wants to
反对
start a
但是呢
business.
这
There's
些
no
风险
reason
这
for
些
me
感
to
觉那我呢
to
也提示给大家
contradict,
呢这样你
but
就
there
少
are
走弯路
risks. So that I
也
want
知
to
道
remind these
就业
risks
相
to
对
you so that
是更安全
you can
啊
take a
更周
shortcut.
到
That
没有什么风
seeking
险
employment
也不用
has
做那么
less
多投
risk
资
and has less
也告诉一
investment
些
in it,
什么都
and
不
it's
会的青
safer.
年朋友
And I
这
want
个
to
时候
tell
你应
our
该
young friends
学
who
到一
don't
技之
know
长
anything
就
yet
可以谋生
that once
你
you
不要告
learn
诉我
a
说
technique
那你
or
说
an
了什么都
ability,
干不
then
了
you
就只
can
能
make
做
a
领导
living.
关键是领导谁谁让
If
你
you
领
want
导
to become a leader,
嗯
who are you
我所说
leading?
的啥都干不
Who
了的
wants
人
you to
其
lead?
实他们
For people who
是
I say that
胸中
they
有雄才
don't
大
know
略
any,
雄
they
才
cannot
大
do
略
anything
不是一
else,
个梦
but
幻
they have a
而是
lot of
本意，是
mission
他的
at their
知识
heart.
面，是他的阅读，
they have a lot of knowledge. They have a lot of reading. It supports them and become their abilities. For example, Zhuge Liang and Han Xin.
韩信在他为了阅读的时候，他根本不能下农田干活，不能去做生意做事，他只管阅读。
For example,
可是家庭呢已经衰败了，没有饭吃。
Also, Han Xin's family was a royalty, and then he became poor. But he focused on studying, and he didn't work in the farm and although he was trying to find meal from other households, but he continued to study. And before he was able to find employment, he had a lot of knowledge. Life is difficult. We need to learn a lot of knowledge so that we can live a better life. If you don't know anything, then I need to ask you, why don't you work hard? As long as you learn one ability, you can feed yourself. If you learn a lot of knowledge, whether you start your own business or find employment, you can all create a beautiful life. So that's all for today. If you have questions regarding this, you can leave me a message or you can write me a comment. I don't know if you want to hear me talk about such serious topics. Yes, they do. On the messages online, many people are grateful to Grandmaster. There are people who lost money, who they are all. There are also people who are young people, and they don't listen to their parents. But when Master talks about it, they wants to listen to Master. And there are also people leaving messages say that I read something similar on the book, but I didn't understood it. But now I understand. I know many businessmen, and sometimes when they are in the situation, they get confused. Even when they are successful, they make the wrong decision. Some people come to find me before their obstacle comes, or some people find me after their challenge. And I would guide them on the right way. And I have helped many such businessmen too. And that's why I have these experiences and words of caution for you. So our next live session, shall we continue on this topic? Yes, let's continue to talk about choices, talking about entrepreneurship and employment. Our next live feed session will be Asia's Sunday, October 18th at 10 a.m. And in Vancouver and North America, that will be October 17th on Saturday at 7 p.m. All right, so if you like my way of talking, then you can click like, share, and subscribe, and share the videos with your friends and families so that their paths will be more smooth. All right, so that's all for today's class. May everyone be healthy. May your family be happy. Let's meet again next time. Thank you, Master. Seize Your Fate chanting class starts October 18th to October 25th, Asia Taipei time.
小小的红点里，人生就此欢喜。我快乐了，我健康了，我幸福了，我美丽了。在茫茫人海之中，让我与你相遇。小小的红点里，人生变得神奇。我智慧了，